Joshua Perrin.
All right. Thank you, everybody. This is like a breathalyzer. I need to. This is the soberest I've ever done a talk, so I hope it's all right. Yeah. So I'm Josh Perryman, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about OSINT. I guess that's a really fancy word for recon. You know, 10 years ago, I never thought that I would give a talk on doing recon or have enough material to fill that. But, you know, I think the way things are today with social media, you know, and everybody's putting everything they're doing out there, you know, they're basically all leaving breadcrumbs back to grandma's house, right? I mean, it's amazing the amount of information that people put out on the internet. So this talk is to show what type of information is out there, some methods to go and gather this information, but the biggest thing is putting all of this together, right? So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have done pen tests, and you have, you know, some informational findings, you know, in the report, a version of a software, or a little, you know, some emails found here or there, and, you know, in the report it says, you know, this finding by itself may not be, you know, very important or whatever. It's an informational finding, but when you put all these together, you really start to see the big picture and gain a lot of intelligence. So this talk can be used to, for competitive intelligence, to gather information on individuals, to gather information on companies, to really understand the external and public attack surface without really sending a lot of packets to the target. So basically, this is a couple companies that I own: Packet Focus, Hot Rod Hackers, and Fish Camp. I'm hoping somebody's going to buy one of these and I can retire.
I'll give you 50 bucks.
Well, hey, I'll take it right now, man, if I don't have to work. So basically, this describes my hobby. I do computer security consulting when I can, and anytime, free time I have, I race. And the reason I like it is because your CISSP don't mean shit at the drag strip, you know. So that's pretty much my my hobbies. So when I saw this slide, this is kind of what gave me the idea. I mean, two of the coolest things there are, right? Ninjas and rock stars. So again, the goal of this is to be stealthy like a ninja, but to get results like a rock star. You know. So disclaimer. Most all this stuff that I show in here, in this, are passive stuff, just regular data mining. There are some more active approaches that you may or may not want to use. It just depends, you know, on the type of engagement, what you're trying to do, whether it's legal or illegal. But to keep those separate, I've put three little icons together. The first one is the little ninja, so that's the passive type of test. So that means, you know, we're really not sending any packets to the target. The next one is semi-passive, so this will look like normal traffic, right? So some requests to the website, some normal stuff that really shouldn't stick out or show up on any kind of IPS, IDS, or really tip, you know, the target off that we're doing anything. And finally, my favorite is the Chuck Norris approved steps. You know, these things are a little more active, maybe a little mixture of social engineering. You know, you may not be applicable for all of the, you know, for OSINT or recon type stuff, but I just wanted to kind of talk on a few things that could be used. So, you know, first of all, what is OSINT? I mean, to me, it's, you know, again, basically like recon, it's intelligence gathering, actionable intelligence data. So we're going out, we're trying to understand as much as we can about the company, the technology, the people, and put all this together to determine, you know, attack scenarios and threat modeling. So before we ever, you know, send an attack, we got to plan the attack, right? So I think most everybody that, you know, does a pen test, you got to do some recon. But what this is taking recon to a whole nother level, you know. So not just spending the 1 or 2 or maybe 3 hours doing recon to get a little bit of information about it. It's spending, say, 3 days, maybe even a week, you know, gathering just a tremendous amount of data and putting that all together and figuring out, you know, what would be the most successful attack. You know, we're not talking about running in-map and sending a bunch of data towards a client. We're gathering all this, and when we get ready to try to send an attack or an exploit or whatever we want to do, you know, we've got a pretty high probability that it's going to work. So this kind of shows the areas that I like to cover when doing OSINT. And I put a little star beside it and call it advanced OSINT, but it's not really advanced. It just shows, these are the ones with the stars. These are some of the areas that I like to dig down into a little more. You know, spend a little more time than you would usually spend in these areas to gather a lot deeper detail and put more information together. So I don't think I put it in the slide, but I had a great idea. You know, we hear APT. That seems to be a big term lately. Well, for the OSINT, to me, the 3 main areas is CPT, so company, people, and technology. So those are the 3 areas that we really want to dig into and understand to put together this threat model or attack scenarios. So we'll go through the company, understand products and services, their competitors, their locations, phone numbers, partners, third-party connections. We want to determine their email formatting, you know, first name, last name. That's going to be pretty much consistent across an organization. Username formatting, so we'll look at some meta tag, meta-analysis, and try to determine their internal user structures. We want to understand the technology they use, right? So what are their web servers running, you know, application servers. Go in, look at jobs. You know, that's a great way to go in and figure out what they're using internally. Mobile devices, smartphones, and then the people. That's a big, you know, a big part of this is understanding the people. So, you know, normally you go out and you can find, you know, any website has got the board of directors or the executives' information in their bio, and it's got a little information about it. But what we do is we pull out that, you know, pieces of information. They may say, you know, John Thompson, the CEO, lives with his lovely wife in Sarasota, Florida. So, okay, we start putting that together and start figuring out, okay, well, the guy's got a wife. They live in Sarasota, Florida. So then we start putting that information together and going in and digging around and actually finding the guy's home address, you know, a picture of where he lives, which can be used, you know, to pull up, do some wireless hacking, some Bluetooth hacking to ride that back in to the corporate network. So this, to me, this is OSINT. So what this is a model car kit. So you look at the little pieces, and by themselves, you know, there's not really much. You know, it's just a little piece of plastic. But the thing is, when we put all those pieces together, we have something. You know, you take all these little pieces of the model car and you put them together, you have the actual finished product, the model car. You know, you have the big picture, you have an understanding of it. So that's what we're doing with this OSINT. We're gathering all this data across, you know, all these sites and all these different domains and these different methods. We're taking it, we're putting it together, we're doing analysis and understanding it, and then using that actionable data to come up with an attack tree and attack plan without sending a bunch of packets. So this is the setup piece of it. What I would recommend, or what I like to do before doing any type of OSINT, is, you know, getting a good VPN set up, maybe a VPN along with a proxy, and also changing the user agent, because the first thing, we don't want the target to start figuring out, hey, somebody's doing some recon against us. We're seeing this IP and this user agent hit all our websites and do all this, and it really doesn't look normal. So we really want to be able to kind of blend in to the crowd and not trigger off any alarms or alerts, or let them know that we're really going out and digging. So this shows, Tor. There's a bunch of VPNs out now, anonymous VPNs you can use. So I like to use just a VPN, swap IPs around, change the user agent around, and use a proxy on top of that sometimes as well. All right, so now that we're set up, we'll go ahead and just push the vids. Gentlemen, start your engines. Everybody ready. So the first step, one of the first steps I like to do when doing OSINT is really starting to understand the company. So that can normally be done by going to their website, right? So organizations provide a wealth of information on their websites. Like I said, about us, everybody's really happy about putting their executive pictures, their profiles, their education, when they were born, where they live, family information. That all can be found on the website. There's job information on the website, right? So we go down through that, each one of the job listings, and we pull out the technical keywords, so MySQL, .NET, we pull out all these technical keywords and start getting an idea of what they're using internally and what they're doing. And we can also take that and start putting together and figuring out like an organization chart, right? So if you're reading about a developer and it says he reports to, this certain manager at this location, we can start using that data to understand, the internal structure, what technologies they're using, what kind of, if they're doing code reviews, so on and so forth. A lot of that information is put into the job listings. So by going to their website and and reading through it, by the time we spend a couple hours doing that, we have a really good understanding of the target's services and products. What do they do? What's their core business? How do they make their money? What vertical markets are they in? What are the executives? What's the board? Normally pull a few email addresses from the website. At that point, we already starting to know the email naming structure and the locations. I've noticed some organizations, I guess it's part of operations, but right. So if it's a company that provides or has data centers all over the U.S., under their contact page, there's a really big company that provides data center storage and DR for banks. So I was looking at it at their site, and it goes and it shows every address of all their data centers. But not only that, it goes down through and shows the checklist of what security controls they have in place. And it shows pictures, and it shows diagrams. And this is for every one of their data centers. So that just made it real easy from, a bad guy's perspective. All you have to do is go to the website, and within 20 minutes, you completely profiled all their data centers, where they keep all the data. Not only that, all the security controls they have in place. The next step, and this is, you can spend a lot of time in the area of search engines. Because again, we're going out, we're looking at cache, we're looking at information pulled back from the search engines, which means we don't really have to go and hit the website. So we use a lot of Google dorks, I guess, in this area. So you go in, you search target, and then another keyword, like target admin, target confidential, target name, sensitive. There's just, there's thousands you can go through the search engine and pull this data back, right? So you're starting to mine data from the internet to get a better idea and to get some some information on, you know, how the employees feel, you know, data leakage, things like that. So we've already went through and we've looked at the target website. We've got a good idea of the company, got a good idea of the kind of the people, the board, email structure. We went and we did we did a lot of searching on the internet, some Google Docs, a lot of digging around. So at this point, we should have a pretty good detailed list of email targets. You know, we should have a pretty good understanding of web portals, right? So their webmail, SSL VPN, any type of portal that the target may have that would require some type of authentication, username, password. We've also went and looked at these sites and got a little idea about what are the employees saying about this company. Are there a lot of disgruntled employees? You know, is there a lot of information leakage? We also understand their partners and affiliations. So Acme Bank, you know, they're going to have suppliers and connections with a lot of other organizations. So at this point, we start to understand that and start to think about, okay, if we hack their printer company, you know, did they have a connection back in? So that's good to understand, you know, the interconnectivity and how they're connected. Also, news releases, you know, it's good to understand, have they bought any other company lately? Maybe acquisitions. Also, known hacking incidents and current operations. You know, there's personally, I feel that this year so far, there's been probably more hacking activity publicly than I've seen, you know, in probably the last 10 or 15 years. You know, and I think that's where we're going, right? Because everything is, you know, we rely on technology, and a lot of information is out there, and a lot of people have, you know, the basic skill sets to do a lot of attacking now, right? Push the button and see what happens. So we're seeing a lot more attacks. So a lot of that, you know, can be found on the internet if there's current operations going on, or if there's previous hacks. It's good to understand that. And also subdomains. So board reader, this is a good way to go out and look for, you know, data leakage, email leakage from an organization. Go out and see what the tech guys are talking about, maybe on some forums and boards and things like that. We want to go and look and see, you know, I'd say 99% of companies have policies not to use internal email addresses out on the internet, but I don't think I've ever seen one that hadn't. So there's a lot of information to be gathered by reading through the mailing list and forums out on the internet. Other sites such as Office Leaks. So this is a website where employees go and anonymously post, you know, information about a company, what they like, what they don't like. You know, it's a platform for them to anonymously say how they really feel about an organization. So again, this is a good way to go in and look at a target and see what are the employees saying. You know, what are they leaking? What, you know, what can we find there? How are they disgruntled? Wayback Machine. I think everybody's probably used this before. This is a good way to go back and look, you know, at a target website and look at it over the years, right? So you might be able to get some additional information by going back and looking at an older version. You know, you might catch something in between changes or when they just started. Between versions, it may be a way to get some further information about an organization. This was my old website, Packet Focus, from 2003. I think it's pretty fancy. I think I paid about $60,000 or $70,000 in the design of it. You know, it was really cutting edge back then. It's funny to see that stuff still around. Okay, still more passive stuff. So Glassdoor.com. This is a great site to go out and get information. Not only, you know, an overview of the company, kind of where they're located, the industry, revenue, competitors. You see the jobs on the right-hand side. It's also really good to get photos, you know, without actually going on site. This is a really good good site to go through and pull a bunch of photographs of the target. This was just picked Geico and went in and looked at it, and they had, you know, a bunch of pictures of their people, a bunch of pictures of their buildings, and again they had a bunch of the you know, the jobs on the right-hand side there. So with just that one side, you can go in and start getting a good idea of their locations. You know, maybe you can see some security controls in some of these images. You may be able to see some visitor areas, start getting an idea of the egress, or in and out entrance points to the building. Another one of the things I like to do is to really spend time and go through the job postings. Because, you know, when a company's going to hire somebody, they're pretty much going to say, okay, this is what, you know, this is what we need you to do. This is what technologies we need you to know. This is what your job's going to be like. Here's who you're going to report to. So by gathering all that information across several different, you know, job postings, we can start to, again, to get an idea of what the company's doing on the inside. You know, what technologies are they using, what kind of software development lifecycle they have, if they have, you know, just what kind of tools they're using on the inside. We can pull a lot of information out from just the job postings. Another great resource is Wikipedia. So we can go to Wikipedia, and again, on the right-hand side, you see this one's Oracle. So it shows you the industry they're in, when they were founded, who founded it, their headquarters location. It shows key people. It shows the products. It shows the revenue. You know, it shows a lot of information in a single place. It's also, just like the Glassdoor, it's got a lot of information on offices, you know, where the office is located. Where, it also shows, you know, for the most part, it shows pictures of a lot of these locations. So we get an idea, again, where are they located, what does the building kind of look like, and start getting information and putting together where all the locations are for the target. Another cool thing that people may not realize is that if you go to a Wikipedia site and you go under history and scroll down, it'll show you what users have went and, you know, added and modified data to the site. It not always, you know, just shows the usernames. A lot of times it'll have IP addresses like it's boxed in red there. So what we could do is we could go and start to dig a little deeper on those IP addresses and start to determine, you know, maybe these are proxies used by the company. You know, maybe somebody inside marketing came out and went and edited Wikipedia, and this is, we know, one of their proxy servers. So then we could dig a little deeper on this IP address in like Maltego or something like that, then start trying to see where else does that IP address pop up around the internet. You know, what other sites are these users going to? And it could also be used, you know, to identify some smaller subnets. Maybe not, you know, their main subnets. It could identify some small offices that, you know, maybe we didn't know about. Maybe some locations that didn't, you know, that don't host a bunch of public services. You know, so it may be a good way to dig around and find some other locations. Okay, so at this point, we've got a pretty good idea on employee leaks. We should have a lot of information on the locations, you know, where are they located, maybe what services or products are provided out of those locations. We've got a good idea of IP addresses. We've got images of the interior and exterior of the building. Through our research, we've got a detailed history on the target. We know when the company was founded, who the key members are, what their core line of business is, their vertical markets, what they do, who their competitors are. And we've also starting to put together a diagram of the, extranet connections and third-party access. Who may they be connected to? Back. So this is, I don't know how well you can see it, but this is an example of a Geico job listing. So what I did is I just went in and I put some things in bold that may be of interest. So just again, this was a .NET developer. So by looking at this single job listing, we know that this division is located at their Washington, D.C. headquarters. They're looking for .NET developers. They use ASP.NET, Entity Framework, WCF, relational database concepts, and SQL queries. So we get a little idea of maybe their internal databases. They have a software development lifecycle in place. So that means they have some level maybe of code review or separation and before they go into production. So maybe they're looking a little bit at the security risk, with their applications before they roll it out. They're using Java, J2EE, C, C#, C++, SOA, and web services. Also, it shows that they want you to be proficient in MS Office, Word, Access, Excel, PowerPoint. So that kind of lets us know that more than likely they're going to use Outlook for email. So if we're starting to put together a phishing scenario, now we've got a pretty good idea that it's going to be Outlook that we're going after. So that means we're starting, to get an idea how we would design those type of attacks. I think this is one of my new favorite tools beside Maltego. I think Maltego and Foco are one of the tools I use the most. It's just a really, really cool tool, and this is just a free version. Those of you that aren't familiar with it, basically what you do is it goes out and it uses a search engine. You put in the site, again, I don't know why I just picked Geico, I have nothing against them. But just went out and did a search for Geico, and in the top right you can see all the extensions it looked for. Doc, PowerPoint, Excel. So it's trying to look for all these type of files that would have some type of metadata in it. So for this example, it found 85 on Geico.com. So what it shows here is it shows the size of all of them. So basically you put it in, you hit search, it goes out, looks at the search engines, it pulls the list back, and then you download all the documents. So depending on if they've got 1,000 or 2,000, it takes a little bit, so you kind of kick that off and let it run in the background. And once they're downloaded, what we do is we go in and we extract all the metadata. So out of that metadata for Geico, what we found, again, just 85 documents. Most of the organizations you'll come across, of the larger companies, they'll have 1,000, 2,000. So it's usually a lot more information than this. So for Geico, we found 9 users. So Geico, and you see the other ones, one of them's IRS, Craig Garnett, and the other ones which start with U. So kind of by looking at that, started making me think, oh, well maybe that's their internal naming structure. It seems to be pretty consistent. We're getting a lot of those back. So again, without, purely passive, you see the little ninja in the bottom right-hand corner, purely passive, we're able to pull this metadata down and start to figure out their internal naming structures. So again, this could be put together and maybe used for phishing or social engineering. We're starting to be armed with a little more of this information. The next thing that's really cool is that it pulls down software. So again, by just looking at those 85 documents, we know that they use Microsoft Office, Adobe Distiller 505. They have some Mac stuff, Adobe InDesign. So we not only got software, we've got all the version numbers and how many times that these were found. This is one of the things that I think is really cool about it, is that when and it takes a little more time to do this, but once you download it, you go and you download it, and it shows you, yes, it's been downloaded in the date that you downloaded it. But after you do, you analyze the metadata, it'll show you the modified date on the very right-hand column. So by looking at that, we start to get an idea, okay, so when was this uploaded, or when was this, put out there? So what we do is, you can go back, and again, this is, I don't know if the full version will let you select or remove certain metadata analysis. And the reason I say that is because once I've seen it's modified, I may just want to go and look at all the 2011 metadata information. It may not be relevant to me for 2010 or 2009 for the software they're running then. I may just want to know what they're running now. So what I've been having to do is go in, do this initial analysis first, pull everything out, and note which files have been modified at which year or which date, then go back and just look at those files so you can get an idea of what kind of software they're using now. But the good thing is, if you pull all the metadata down, you can kind of start to see a trend, of when a company has maybe migrated from a new version to the next version. You can get an idea of maybe how long it takes them to upgrade to a newer version of software. So after we do we pull that metadata down and we look at the software, we can manually go in and start to figure out, what are they using? How many instances of the software may be used inside the organization. So we can put a little chart together like this and see that, PDF library 8.0, that was almost 40. It showed up in 40 out of 85 documents. So we'd say that's, pretty widespread within the organization. So again, by looking at this, we can start to put together, if we're going to do a phishing attack or some type of malware or browser exploit or some kind of attack vector to deliver an exploit into an organization, we're armed with a little bit more information on what software they're using. So we're not just shooting in the dark. We got a good idea of what kind of payloads, what kind of exploits we need to use and send into them. So this gives us a little more success, again, without just guessing. We know this information, and it makes makes the actual attack a lot more successful. Okay, so now we're getting a little deeper into the process. So now we have a detailed list of their internal software. We know most times the internal usernames and the structure. Like the ones for Geico seem like they started with U and maybe 5, 6, 7 characters long. In that metadata, sometimes it'll also pull back paths and drive letters. So you might see a whole, where their shares are, what drive letters the shares are. We can look at job listings and we can reverse that and start to figure out their org chart and how these are connected. And we can go in and pull, just pull the metadata from, say, 2011 versus, 2010, 9, 8, or whatever, and get an idea of what kind of current software they're using internally. And again, by looking at all that historically for, say, several years, we can reverse a timeline for, maybe their patching or what's their upgrade path. How long does it take once a new version of Adobe or whatever comes out, or Flash or Office or whatever, how long has it taken this target to bring on the new version? All right, so we've got a good understanding of the company. Now we're starting to get into the network level, the network side of it. We want to understand a little more about it. So one of my favorite sites I've used for a long time is ServerSniff. Really, really good for going in and pulling back some information on the name servers, a little domain report, subdomains, comments on a page. So we go in now and we're starting to figure out what is the autonomous system or the AS number, net blocks, things like that. Netcraft, a lot of people use it, good site. It's not always 100% accurate on what's the OS or what's running right now, but it provides a lot of good information. DNS, the admin name, name server, when was it first seen, uptime. I think a lot of people have used that to try to reverse and figure out patching. So how long has the machine been up? Has it been brought down to patch and brought back up? So there's a lot of good information we can pull back from Netcraft. Robtex is another good one, and there's a lot of these that are kind of the same. So I don't like using just one. I think you need to be diverse and use several different ones. That way you can kind of verify, validate, put all this information together. So again, this is another tool to go out. It's really good on DNS reports, pulling back information, who is information, route information, AS, BGP announcements, things like that. So now we're starting to get a picture of the routing into the organization. Another cool one, MagicNet. I don't think it's magic.net, but it's magic-something. But anyway, it's a good snapshot as well. It's really quick. You go in, it shows you the SOA records, NS records, name server IPs, MX records, A records, if they have SPF records. So that'd be good to know if you're going to do a phishing attack. You need to know if they're doing any kind of SPF, so that way you know how to modify your from address. Okay, so we went down now and we've looked through and started to understand the network. So we got a pretty good understanding of the DNS, their mail servers, the autonomous network system, the AS. We should know the net blocks at this point, subnets. One thing I didn't show in here, there's online traceroute tools, online graphical traceroute and other traceroute tools. So it's not coming from our box, it's coming from other machines. But sometimes if you're having a problem, say they have a Class C subnets and they have some smaller subnets split out in that. One thing you can do is use Traceroute to go through and look. So if you know that, say, .50 is one of their web servers, right? So you watch the Traceroute, you see where the edge is or where it goes. So you can start going up and down both ways and watching that traffic. And you can see, the IPs or the machines that still take that same route, up and down above that, we can probably figure that, okay, that's still on the same network. That's the same edge, same perimeter. When you start seeing, you keep going through that and you get to one that starts going somewhere else, we can pretty much figure out, okay, well that little subnet's carved out and the rest of it goes somewhere else. So that's just another way, if they don't have a lot of information on the net block, or say AT&T or someone owns the net block and don't say specifically that the target owns it, just an old school trace route is a good way of manually figuring out where their little net blocks, start and stop. Pastebin. This is a good site. A lot of sites like this, these anonymous dump sites, to go and pull some information. It's good for companies, but it's really good for people, right? So if you're going to pull some information on people, or say you're trying to track down some hackers or whatever, and you know a handle or know a little bit of information, this is a good site to go and use and pull, a lot of information from. So this one's, I don't know, this was just a random docs on something for Operation Orlando. But, it's got a guy's complete information, birth date, address, home, I mean, everything you ever wanted to know about the guy, somebody's put out there. That seems to be this is all, I guess, doxing has been done for a long time, but it seems more and more, the cool thing to do by Anonymous and other groups lately. So we're seeing a lot of that information on sites like Pastebin and NonPad and things like that. So again, don't overlook Pastebin. Pastebin is a site that's got a lot of good information on it. Again, passive. Another site is RadioReferencecom. So you can go into this site and pull back, I guess, the FCC approved frequency ranges for target organizations. Can I sit here and listen to walkie-talkie or whatever traffic back in Alabama? No. You got to be pretty close to scan and get that information. But if you have the ability to do that and you know their frequencies, it makes it a lot easier to do some eavesdropping and things like that instead of having to scan through 200,000 channels. Another very good tool for getting an idea of a physical location, entrance, exit points, visitor access areas, potential surveillance areas, anti-surveillance areas, right? So you can figure out, okay, I could set up here in the grass and do a surveillance on the entrance of, I guess, Oracle again, yeah. So the entrance of Oracle building, but I guess if you're the organization, you also need to identify anti-surveillance positions, right? So the red zone is what we call areas where surveillance can be performed against an organization, places you can be to do surveillance. So, what we need to look at is anti-surveillance positions where the company would look to see if someone's doing surveillance on them. So a lot of this information can be pulled back, just from the satellites. Again, I was just looking through, I was trying to find a little picture of either a little smoking area or some cameras or something, and I don't even know where this was from, but I was rolling around street level view, and I said, oh shit, there's a vendor right there, Okay, so this is Mitsubishi Electric, there's their phone number, so, if I was going to go attack this target, now, I might roll up in a truck just like this with the same logo, try to come in as a vendor. So there's a lot of information being revealed with the street level views and these satellite images that everyone has access to. Okay, so now we've looked at the images, we looked at the locations, we got an idea of the red zone, which means areas that we can perform surveillance from. The anti-surveillance positions, so positions where you could look into and see if someone's performing surveillance. Third-party vendors, sometimes. Camera placement, if you can do a street level and look around, you can see where the cameras may be placed, camera angles, how you can get in, get out of the building, where, maybe where the traffic flows go in and out. Visitor areas, we know the radio frequencies, and we've seen information leaked on Pastebin and other sites. Social media landscape. So as you can tell, wow, what a world we live in, right? So everybody's heroes and badasses on the internet, on social media, I guess, big tough guys, and leave out, just talk about everything, I don't use Facebook at all, but my wife, I think she's addicted to it, I think she needs to go to a program, because every time I come home, She's on Facebook. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just updating. Oh, I got saved $5 on coupons today. I got to tell all my friends about that, you know, or this or that. It's putting so much information. We're leaving so much information out. It's like we want to share everything we can. It's almost like as a culture we're wanting to feel maybe more accepted by having a lot of friends, or you know, it's not really, it's not all who your real friends are in person now. It's how many friends do you have on Facebook, or how many connections do you have on LinkedIn. So we're putting all this information out there, and that just leaves a huge trail, right? So if you're tracking down an individual, for instance, on a forum or something, you know, you may find they have a unique username, you know, Johnny Reb 1932 125. Sounds cool, but that's very unique, right? So it's easy to take that and look at all these different social media sites. So they may not have a lot of information on one site. You know, they may even, the location may say, you know, they live on the moon. But you start looking at these other sites like DeviantArt, some of these other social media sites, you put all these little pieces of information together. And by doing that, you can really figure out a lot of information about a person. You know, it's not, all this doesn't have to come from one side. It comes from a lot of different sides. So this gives kind of an example of some of the social media stuff that's out there. I mean, it's growing exponentially. I mean, you can pretty much get on there and keep everybody updated on anything, and people are doing it. That's just the way things is. You know, it's the way things are these days. So I like to use this site. It's called NameCheck, NameCheck.com. So again, if you know someone's, say, you know, their handle, or you know, if you see a Twitter account or Facebook or whatever, and you have that username, and you want to do some digging and find more information, you know, instead of manually going and looking, you've got these sites to go out and check it for you. So I just went in, I put in Packet Focus, and it goes through here and it shows, you know, I have a Blogger account, a YouTube account, eBay account, Twitter. I don't have a MySpace account. I don't know why that comes up. LinkedIn. So basically it shows you all these accounts. This is what I was talking about earlier. Say you're trying to track down an individual and you have their handle. You know, you can use that to go find out what all sites they're on. You know, visit each one of those sites and start putting pieces of information together. You know, to come up with a lot of information on a person. Another one, Noam. I think this says it searches over 550 popular social media sites and 150 domain names. The other one, checkusernames.com. Another great one. It's over, I think, 300 sites it checks. So Facebook, again, this is just an example. Bill Gates. But if you go on Facebook, and if you'll see the top right corner, I think it's very important for everyone to have at least 10 different Facebook accounts. Not to go and update about yourself, but fake ones, right? To go and be able to use, to infiltrate and use that to go and get information from people, befriend people, and use that identity, right? So I think I've got about 10 that I've been working on for a while, building stuff up, you know, putting all this bogus shit on there, and using, depending on who I'm going after or whatever, I'll select which one I want to use, right? So Bill Gates isn't a good example of a lot of information or data leakage, but you know, a lot of people have a lot of information on their public profiles. So it goes in and it'll show you where they live, maybe you see some photos, if they're traveling, who their friends are, interests, hobbies. I mean, just a lot of information it's being put out there for the world to see. And it's public. I mean, everybody's got their information public, so you don't have to really be friends to go dig a lot of this out. So LinkedIn, again, LinkedIn provides you a lot of information. This is my profile. But say you're doing Acme Bank, right? So you go into LinkedIn, you can filter by company. So you go in, filter by Acme Bank, then it'll come back and it'll show you how many profiles are on LinkedIn for Acme Bank. So then you can use the list we had earlier of executive and board members, and you can go down one by one and start, putting the information together on them. Again, each site may not give just a lot of information, but we're pulling pieces, It shows here I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. So write down, all right, Josh is in Birmingham, Alabama. That's going to be useful for later when I go and figure out his home address, his wife's name, his kids, how much his house is worth, if he's got any public records against him, That's good information to know. So another good website, so now you know my name, so we went and we searched Pipl, P-I-P-L. So went in and it shows a lot of my old addresses. When I lived in Australia, Harpersville, Alabama, Huntsville, Vincent. It don't show my current stuff, but it's got a lot of public information about where I've lived in the past. So again, if you're targeting an individual or getting information about an individual, this gives you a kind of some information on places where they lived. So that again, that could be used in social engineering. So you're having a little call with somebody. Yeah, I just moved to Huntsville, Alabama, blah blah blah. Oh, Huntsville. Oh wow, I lived in Huntsville. Stuff like that. So it's just again digging in information on people and putting this profile together, and understanding a person. Spoke, another great site. Again, some of this stuff is outdated because it shows that I still work for BE&K, and that's been 10 years ago. So I wouldn't say Spoke is always updated with the newest stuff, but it does give you, some information that can be used again to put this profile together on people. Intelius. So this is a paid background checking service. You may, if you're doing this against a company, you may not go to this level. If you're a black hat or whatever, no holds barred, right? The gloves are off. You can do whatever the hell you want. So this would be a good way to go in and get a lot more information about somebody. Maybe something you can use for blackmail if they've been to jail, if they got tax liens. A lot of public information about them. Normally I wouldn't do this if I'm getting paid just to do OSINT on a company. I wouldn't go to this level. But again, this is passive, so it's optional. You can go out and do it if you wanted to. You can get a lot of good information. Keep hitting that button. Previous, there we go, it's a little easier. Another one is NetDetective. I don't know if some of these are scams or not. I hadn't used them, but I just thought I'd put it out there to show you. There's a lot of these sites you can go out and pull background information. If you know someone's name and maybe where they live and some basic information about them. One of my favorites. Although I think the terms of service says you're not supposed to use this for commercial activities or whatever, don't tell anybody. But so I use this on myself. Again, there's a couple people I started to go through and just on their ass, right, doing this. But I decided I don't want to get in trouble, I'm just going to use myself. So anyway, so I go into Spokeo and I put in Joshua Perryman, and I saw it had someone in Alabama with my name. So I went and clicked on it. So it comes up and it shows, and this is the paid version, shows phone number, which is old, address, which is old, but it shows a lot of basic information. It says I'm a registered voter. It shows my birthday, which that's accurate. If anybody wants to start putting some information together on me, I was born in July 1979. So that was accurate on there. One of the coolest things, you know, for all the haters, it says my house is $800,000, which is not, but hey, I think that's cool, you know. If anybody's looking at information on me, they might think I'm rich. But again, Spokeo, it just provides a wealth of information on someone. It even goes down to show you the house level view, shows you their house, how long they live there, how many people are in the house, potential relatives, which is really good information. And it really opens a lot of people's eyes. You know, you kind of, for a while I didn't release that information when doing OSINT. I kind of pulled back, didn't put the, you know, the CEO of a huge company's home address in the report. But then I started thinking, you know, I mean, it's what the bad guys are doing. I mean, let's be real. Let's show them what's really out there. So now, you know, I'll put the home address in there. I'll show him who his kids and wife are, where they go to school, you know, what their hobbies are, you know, just all that information, because I think it's good for people to know that. It's good to kind of scare the shit out of them sometimes and say, whoa, you know, maybe we shouldn't have what year I was born and where we live and stuff like that in the company bio on the website. You know, maybe we should pull a little bit of that information out, make it a little harder. This is another cool slide that I wanted to put in here. So when you're going out and you're gathering information, you need to be able to vet that and determine how reliable it is. So what this shows is a way of determining how reliable or unreliable the source is. So, you know, if you go to a company's website, right, acmebank.com or whatever, you can pretty much figure out that information is going to be reliable and accurate, you know. But if you're going through like Pastebin or some of these anonymous online sites, you're not really sure how accurate that's going to be. So you need to apply that, to this, you know, if it's primary or secondary source, you know, what was the access to the source? If you're getting it from someone, you know, what's their track record? Have they been reliable? So now at this point we know social network profiles, we know physical locations, we know their family, friends, associations, so on and so forth. So once we have that, and you know my Twitter profile or Flickr, you know, you can use this tool called Creepy, which goes in and it goes and pulls down the pictures, and it pulls out the EXIF tag information from the pictures, which shows you geolocation, right? So you can go in and it shows you where they've taken all these pictures from and uploaded it. So it gives you a little idea of starting to track someone, right? Logistically, you can figure out where they go. Another thing that I think is really cool is tweet stats. It may not look like much, but again, if you're trying to profile somebody and figure information out, all you need is, you know, if they have a Twitter account and have some activity, you can go and run tweet stats and look at it and see, okay, well, you know, how many tweets they're doing, when are they, you know, when are they most active, what time of night, so I can start figuring out sleep patterns, you know, what time zone you're in. Not only that, but what interfaces you use, you know. I can figure out now what kind of smartphone you've got, because it shows, you know, from iPad, it shows Android, whatever. By looking at your tweets, we can identify what type of smartphone you're using. So I might use that to put together a targeted phishing attack. Also, it shows who you reply to, so we're starting to figure out who your friends are and your connections. FB Pwn, really cool. Chuck Norris approved. I hadn't got it working myself, hadn't really played around with it that much, but it goes out and it pulls and digs a lot of data back from Facebook. I think you select what friends you want, it shows that friend picture, they accept it, and then it pulls down all the data. This is a pretty cool way of, You know, if you're targeting a hacker group or someone, you're trying to figure out their associations, this is a cool matrix to put together to figure out who they're associated with, right? So who they may be connected with, so on and so forth. So you can start to determine, you know, who they talk to and who they would be in contact with. I didn't put a lot on Maltego. I think Maltego is badass. It makes not having to go out and do each one of these individual websites. I mean, I was going to do a demo in 5 minutes. I can go through and show you a lot of information about a target, right? So I wrote some transforms on my own. There's a really cool transform called Built With that'll go out and it'll pull back, and you can see in the green, this is from Microsoft.com. It'll go out and pull back and tell you ASP.NET, IIS, jQuery, IIS 7.0. So I wrote my own transform that goes out and it uses PHP and curl on my own server. And basically it goes out and just does a head request and pulls back and shows you the header, right? So I don't know if you can really see it, but for this server, Microsoft, pulled it back. It says in the request headers, IIS 7.5, ASP.NET 2.05, and pulls all that information back. So I know that's real time. So that's a quick way to be able to really dig down and see what they're using, what versions of software and things like that. And again, bottom right corner, that's semi-active, right? It still looks like normal traffic, but we are sending some traffic to the target. This is Shodan. Very, very cool. You can go and search by host name. So this was hostname oracle.com, and it came back with, let's say, about 1,200 different servers that it found on the internet. So you can go back through and look at all the headers and get an idea, again, of versioning, maybe test stuff, development stuff all around the world where it's hosted. Real quick, I don't know if I was telling this earlier, there's a movie called, I think it's Grown Ups. It's a part where the ladies have got out and they're by the pool and there's this big guy across, you know, it's all built and waxed up and whatever, and they're like, damn, you know, they're staring at this guy, and he walks over and he's got this real high-pitched voice, yeah, from Saskatchewan, you know. I just thought that was funny because I searched for webcam and I saw Saskatchewan or whatever, so I had to click on it. And come to find out it was a webcam of someone's office and their door that's left open. Thought that was pretty neat. So now we went out, we know all the versions, we know what the target's running, you know, IIS, what web servers, what ASP, PHP, Drupal, whatever they're using. So then we go and we run that through the CVE and the NIST database, and we come up with potential attack vectors, right? So now we know what they're running, we match that up with what attacks, vulnerabilities, or exploits are out there that we could use, and put that into attack trees or vulnerability modeling. So we know, you know, what protocols they have in place, what may stop us, and we're starting to get an idea of the most successful attacks, right? So by doing this, by doing all this OSINT, we're not going out and sending a bunch of Nmap packets. We're not going out and do a bunch of scanning with Nessus. We're not doing any of that. We're not creating a big footprint. You know, we're going out and passively gathering most all this information. So when we get ready to send the attack, it's going to be, you know, pretty successful. Some of the other advanced stuff, again, Chuck Norris approved. If you're doing some phishing stuff, you could send them, say, a books a million phishing email. What I found out is Word 2007 and 2010 no longer uses IE to render HTML. It uses the Word HTML engine, I guess. So I went down through every tag, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to put JavaScript tracking like you could in 2000, Outlook 2000, into an email. So that means as soon as it gets previewed in HTML, it shows you, hey, they opened it, they've been on it this long, you know, basic web analytics. However, any kind of image request tag in 2007 or 2010, Outlook's going to bring up the little blocked images. But if you can get that, you know, if you can send them a books a million link or whatever and get them to click over to it and get some analytics on it, You can figure out their browser, you know, their operating system, resolution, a lot of information. Now, this is just basic web analytics, but this is the kind of information you can pull back if you just get them to go to a site and make a request for your analytics. Geo, it shows you where they're from. So now we know their public networks, we know their application, we've pretty much owned their people. We've got exploits picked out, we've got scenarios for social engineering, and we've come up with attack trees for exploitation. So by doing all this, at the end of it, we've now come up with scenarios that should be very, very successful in compromising the target. Probably have some really cool algorithms you could come up with, you know, to come up with the basic success rate. I don't have anything right now. It's just kind of based on experience what I think would work. So that's pretty much it. The goal of it is not to go out and to have to, you know, again, send a bunch of packets, trigger a bunch of alarms, alerts, or whatever. We want to do all this data. We want to be prepared. We want to make one shot, one kill, one exploit, and own the target without, you know, again, without leaving a lot of traffic or leaving a footprint. So that's pretty much it. It's the end of the internet. Hope everybody enjoyed it. I know it was a little fast. First time I gave that talk, I hadn't had any sleep, but you know, hopefully it gave you some ideas. I don't think there's a lot of groundbreaking stuff in there, but hopefully it gave you some ideas on taking all the small pieces and putting them together and correlating, you know, some of the stuff like with Twitter to figure out smartphones and things like that. So that's it. I appreciate it.